Nobody told me I was going to be first. So just let you know that no matter who you think you are, always be ready, okay? So listen, I just want to say thank you for this gift, and I do consider it a gift to be able to stand before you and speak and just tell you a little bit of something about myself. And hopefully, by the time the day is over, we've all met one another and we've all been able to share something amongst one another. So I stand before you today, 3 generations removed from people that pick cotton to survive. 100-pound bales of cotton they would pick in the hot sun, similar to what you are experiencing right now, only to receive $5 a day for that work. These are women that I'm talking about. My great-grandmother, my grandmother, my mother picked cotton. Now, my mother told me that the only thing she liked about picking cotton was lunch. That's the only thing she liked when she got to lunch. But she did it because they were determined, they were bold, they were fearless, and they saw something better somewhere on the horizon. Now, not only did they pick cotton, but my great-grandmother would come and wake my mother up at sunrise when they weren't picking cotton to go and pick strawberries and blueberries from the field to make jelly and jam. Now, some of you might think that was for us. It was not. It was another source of income. So not only did they pick these strawberries and these blueberries to make jelly and jam, they had to carry these strawberries and blueberries because they didn't have transportation. Transportation was their feet to the home. And I'm sure some of you make jelly and jam, so you know the process to make this jelly and jam and put it in those beautiful mason jars to take it to the store in the hopes that the store owner would buy this jelly and jam that they picked from this red dirt in North Carolina, only to be received from the back door of that convenience store. Now, it wasn't guaranteed that the store owner was going to buy their jelly and jam, but certainly they were hopeful. That's what I love about these strong, bold, fearless women. They were hopeful that when they made this wonderful jelly and jam and they went to the back door to sell it, that someone would purchase it. Now, I stand before you today, their descendant, the only African-American female troop commander in the Pennsylvania State Police. The only. But I recognize that it was the toil in that red dirt that helped me to get to where I am today. And so I always fall back on that. Now, to hear my mother tell it, if she were here today, I wasn't going to be a police officer. I was going to be a doctor or a nurse. Yep. That's what I heard constantly. You will be a doctor or a nurse. She bought me all the doctor and the nurse stuff. She bought me the game Operation. Y'all remember that Operation? Some of y'all too young. Look it up, Google it, do what you need to do. She bought me like little nurses' outfits, so every time Halloween came around, I was a nurse. I was a doctor or a lawyer. That's what my mom, she was working on me. She was working hard. When I was 4 years old, you see, we came up in North Carolina, like I told you, we were poor. I can remember no plumbing in our home. Had to use a chamber pot. Anybody familiar? A chamber pot to go to the bathroom. Look it up, Google it, okay? And so that meant when you went to the bathroom, you didn't have running water. You had to dispose of the waste yourself and then bring it back for the next person. I remember that. When I was 4 years old, my mother, recognizing that she didn't have the funds to take care of me at the time because she gave birth to me in her 17th year, still in high school, still having her own dreams and goals and aspirations. She gave birth to me. So when I was 4, she decided to send me to New York. Yes, Bronx. I don't want to break out into my Jay-Z rap, but I can. Sent me to the Bronx to live with my aunt, who was a nurse. My aunt was one of the first Black female nurses in the VA hospital. That sister was a bad sister. She lived in the Bronx, New York, and my mother sent me to live with her. And the way I would get there, and I love this, is my aunt would send for me, and it was the first time I would ride an airplane. I rode airplanes at 4 years old. And this is way before TSA, y'all. So what they would do is they would put a little note on my little dress, and it said my name and my aunt's name and where I was going. And they would put me in the custody of the stewardess, and she would make sure that she took care of me while I went from North Carolina to New York. And then I'd get off the plane, and that was when everybody could actually come to the plane when it landed. And my aunt would grab me by the hand, and I went to live with my aunt in the Bronx. Concrete and asphalt. That was the first time I experienced concrete and asphalt. But what my aunt taught me was, she was professional, and she always took pride in how she looked. And she took pride in being to work on time, and she took pride in taking care of those people in the VA, because she told me, she said, I'm taking care of heroes. And my nickname is Pris. I'm gonna share that with y'all. I don't share it with everybody, okay? But she didn't say Kristal. She said, I'm taking care of heroes, Pris. And she went out there every day and did that. And I remember what pride she took in how she looked and in her job, and that stayed with me. Now, I stayed with my aunt until I was going into the 2nd grade, and that's what my mother sent for me. She married a guy. They moved to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Little did I know how instrumental this was going to be in my life. So they moved to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and they sent for me, and I went kicking and screaming because I was in love with New York City at the time. But that was my mother. And she said, I remember her saying, I am your mother. I will raise you. So I ended up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. The man she married was a concrete finisher on Interstate 81. Little did I know that at one point I would be patrolling the concrete that he finished on Interstate 81. Now, I didn't come to the Pennsylvania State Police easy. It was hard. Some people will tell you, hey, I took the test, I made it on the first time, not me. I took the test, I made it on the second time, not me. It took me 3 tries before I was accepted to be a cadet. And I tell you what, I was as happy as if I made it the first time, okay? But the way I even encountered a Pennsylvania State Trooper was, I was going to college, and I was driving up the turnpike, and I will admit to you that I was speeding. Yes, I was. And so as I'm going up the turnpike, y'all know that feeling, you felt it before? Yeah, I looked up in my rearview mirror, and I saw that flashing light. Woo, woo. And I was like, oh no. Hands went immediately to 10 and 2, did the slow pull over, sat there with my hands in 10 and 2, and waited. And I know y'all felt this before. It felt like I waited 2 hours for the trooper to get out of the car. But when he got out, I was looking in my rearview mirror, and I saw this big boot hit the floor. Boom! And it seemed like dust just came up from the ground. And then he stepped out, his other foot came out, boom! And he just stood up, and he stood up, and he stood up. And it felt like he was 7 feet tall, and I was like, oh my God. It's the first time I saw a state trooper. He walked up to the car, and his uniform was pressed, and his hat was just right. And I was thinking to myself, wow, I didn't know they made police officers that looked that good. And he walked up to my window, and he said, ma'am, I was frozen. That's the first time anyone had called me ma'am before. And he told me his name, and God forgive me, I don't remember, but he said, ma'am, I'm so-and-so with the Pennsylvania State Police. You have your license, registration, and insurance card. I said, yes, sir. And I handed it to him, and I was still frozen by the fact that this trooper, this man, this powerful person called me ma'am. I handed in my credentials and everything, and he went back to the car. It seemed like it took another 2 hours. He came back, and yes, he gave me a ticket. I didn't get out of the ticket. But what he impressed upon me at that moment was how respectful he was to me on that traffic stop. That stayed with me. It stayed with me. I got to college, I went to the library. We didn't have Google back then, y'all. I went to the library, and I looked up the Pennsylvania State Police. And I studied it, and I found out that the first African American, when they came into onto the organization, and I found out they didn't have many women, and then far less black women. And I said, I want to be a part of that organization. I didn't tell my mom. I didn't tell her. And so my goal then was to be a part of that organization. I left that, finished college, studied. Took me 3 times to get on, but I made it. Now, as I stand here as a troop commander, what I want to impart to you is this. When we aspire to become leaders in anything, and I don't care what it is, if you're the leader of the cheerleading squad, if you're the leader in your church organization, we all must remember to treat people with dignity and respect. I don't care who they are. As a troop commander, I meet with each and every person who comes into my troop. And I meet with them personally. That's well over 300 people. And they all have heard this. And if you talk to them, they will tell you. What's important to the captain is that you treat people with dignity and respect, regardless of how we are being treated. So we meet people in their places where they're not the most happy. Most often, lives are being changed. But we will treat each and every person that we encounter with dignity and respect. That's what I demand. So, I want to finish with this one story that taught me how important it is to have dignity and respect. When I became a trooper, I went down to Avondale, Chester County. That was my first assignment. I did my coach-pupil period, and then I moved on to be alone, and that's a good time when you get that car by yourself. You know what I mean? You go into your own calls, you're feeling good, you can turn the music up as you go into your call, it's great. Well, my first call was a very important call. And when I heard it on the radio, I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't know what to do. Avondale 16, Avondale 16. We have cows on the roadway. I said, 10-9, that's repeat. We have cows on the roadway. I'm sitting in the car trying to figure out, I'm concrete and asphalt, girl. I don't know what to do with cows on the roadway. I went to my call, and sure enough, the whole time I'm praying is that the cows will be gone. But as I get there, there are cows on the roadway. And I'm not talking 1 or 2. I'm talking like a herd. So as I get there, I hit the siren, whoop, whoop, thinking they're gonna move. The cow just looked at me, moo. So I'm still in the car. I'm like, whoop, 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 moo. Cow's not moving. So I'm like, I put the window down. Hey! I don't speak cow. Hey! Cow wouldn't move. I'm sitting in the car. I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to get out. So I get out of the car, and I walk over, and I'm nervous because I don't know what cows are going to do. I don't know if they're going to try to run me over. I don't know. So I get up to the cow, and I look at the cow. Cow looks at me, and I kind of just give it a gentle touch, and the cow moved. And then they all moved, just from a gentle touch. Dignity and respect. Please remember it. Thank you.